Yes, good morning. I'm back at work. I've had 2 weeks off and I certainly feel a little bit out the loop now, but it's my morning commute. And obviously I always do like a fragrance drive along. And I always like to talk about a topic or do a certain theme. Last time I did a fragrance film after work. Talk about the stress of if you're a fragrance enthusiast who forgets his fragrance. Of course, it was a little bit of a joke. I'm not that bad if I go without a fragrance. I promise I don't panic quite as much as that. But what did I want to do? What did I want to talk about today? Well, obviously on my fitness fragrance reviews, if you've seen them before, I normally talk about compliment factor and whether I think a fragrance is good for compliments or if I've had compliments on them before. And there's been some fragrances that I've had compliments on, but I haven't owned them since I've been doing these fragrance videos. So I haven't been able to tell some of these stories. So what I wanted to do today is tell you sort of 3 stories. One is true, 2 of them are not true. They never happened, regarding compliment or fragrance stories I've had. Yeah, where essentially it's just been a funny thing that's happened. And where a lot of that has happened for me, a lot of compliments, a lot of talking points around fragrances mainly happens when I was working in schools. Obviously with schools, a lot of children, a lot of staff, close confined environments, certainly classrooms of 30, 40 people in them, in quite small rooms. It's very easy to be noticed for sprays if you've got a strong one on. And of course when one person mentions it, when one child or one teacher mentions it, or the hall mentions it, then yeah, it becomes a story. So I've mentioned a couple before on the channel. I remember the hall once when we had an assembly. I've been running sports sessions in the hall. I had to come out of the hall because obviously the assembly was about to be run, and the whole assembly stopped initially because everyone thought it smelled so nice in the hall. And I believe it was Sticky Dates by Lush. I think it was either Sticky Dates or Rose Jam. No, it was Sticky Dates. And then Rose Jam, when I went to another school, because I was working in between different schools at times, a lot of the staff said, "Oh, it's you who smells really nice," after they'd all had like a lunch break and they just noticed this smell. And I've always said Lush fragrances are brilliant for that. They've got that real strong performing quality. I've had children literally come up and sniff me like a dog because they thought I smelled nice, like baking cookies, all sorts of things really. I remember I put on Ted Lapidus pour on once because, so where I was doing sport alongside being, you know, in the classroom, I wanted a really strong fragrance. I was particularly in the summer when I was getting sweaty, and I remember putting Lapidus on and the whole class were literally like, wow, that's really strong. But that's a very old school scent and not necessarily the most mass pleasing, and I felt a bit uncomfortable wearing it. It was so strong and the sillage on it is enormous. It was being smelled everywhere. It really was. People outside the classroom were coming in. So it was a teacher. I remember saying, "I knew it was you who was in here because I could smell it." So I'm going to give you 3 stories, as I said today. One of a story that is true, that I've never mentioned before, and then 2 I've essentially just made up. Your challenge is to guess which one is true and which 2 are the ones that aren't true, and then I'll reveal at the end what they are. So we're going to go on to the first story. Now you'll see a picture. I'll upload a picture of this. One of the best things when you worked in a school, especially if you're popular, I've got my buttermint in my mouth because, you know, it's been a little while since I've done these morning buttermints on my drives. Yeah, one of the things you used to get in schools was that Christmas time, Easter holidays, particularly summer holidays at the end of the year, you get a lot of gifts: chocolate, wine, biscuits. Honestly, I was spoiled rotten over the years, and on the day I left the last primary school I worked in, I actually cried. I've never really cried before in terms of being overwhelmed. I've always sort of just cried when I'm sad, mainly. Never cried being overwhelmed with a little bit of sadness to leave, but also just the sheer volume of love that I've received. And one of my gifts that day, so this was on the last day, this was, how many years ago did I leave now? It would have been summer 2024. I received a card and a a present, which I thought that's a weird one, because normally again you expect it to be things like chocolate, but this was quite heavy, and it was in quite a big box. Opened it up, and it was a gift set. It was Nivea. It was a Nivea gift set. It had shampoo for like one of those 3-in-1 shampoos, a face cream, and also they packed in there a little fragrance, and it was a little Adidas one, and I think it was called Ice Dive. Really nice. And I thought, that's really nice. I haven't had anything like that because I normally get chocolate. And I spoke to the parent, because the boy who got me the present always did my after school cross country club, and they said, they always mention how nice you smell. And when we asked what he wanted to get you and the main teacher he said he wanted to get the teacher some flowers. So the teacher he had, she got some flowers, and apparently he said to his mum, "You always smell so nice, and Mr. Rounds is the one who smells nice, so can you get him something nice to smell, whether it was bath salts or anything." So she just found like a gift set from, I think it was from Boots, it's Nivea one, and also an Adidas fragrance. So again, that was my first fragrance story, and to be honest with you, that I'm more than happy with that. I'm one of those people, as much as it's very nice, I don't really I feel guilty when people buy me gifts. But also, where I had so much chocolate, it was just nice to get that slightly different gift. So that's the first story. The second story is, so again, I was kind of, in terms of my sports background, I kind of worked in schools to run sports sessions as much as I did to teach maths and English and work with children with sort of special educational needs. And I used to do 2 after school clubs every week. So I was the only one who did that, because that was kind of my main role. I used to finish an hour after the school closed to basically run clubs. Now, I had to have a meeting about sports day, because again I was very much involved in the organisation of that, and a teacher wanted to just catch up with me, because she was the head of Key Stage 2, so year 3 to year 6. And the story of this one, I have a butter print in mouth. So my club would start at 3:20, so 5 minutes after the end of the school day. But of course this teacher said, "Can I speak to you for 5 minutes at the end of the day, because I just want to quickly run through a few things, so I'm not quite sure about what you mean by this," because I'd made like a sports day pack. I said, "Yeah, that's absolutely fine, but obviously I've got my club." So anyway, I had about 40 children, I think, on my cross country club. They're all getting changed, so I thought that's fine. Anyway, the teacher who I was meant to talk to, so just give me a couple of minutes, I've just got to quickly talk to this parent. Now I'm thinking, okay, I've got 3 minutes before my club starts. It's okay if I'm a little bit late, because people take time to get changed. You've got to wait for everyone for the register anyway. 5 minutes goes by, just still talking to this parent. 10 minutes goes by, and I could tell it was to do with something that had been on a phone, some sort of, I don't know, 2 children had fallen out in class. The parent just wanted to kind of know what was going on. And I thought, I'm just going to have to go. Anyway, just as I was thinking, right, I'm going to go, obviously she stopped. Conversation's over. And I'm thinking, oh no, I'm already 10 minutes. I said, I'm a little bit late. She said, it honestly would be 2 minutes. Next thing you know, by her classroom door, I've got about 30 kids. No joke, like 20, 30 kids probably. All saying, Mr. Rose, are you running your running club today? We're all waiting outside for you. I said, yeah, sorry, really late. And then I said, when obviously the conversation all stopped, we got out there, I was about 15 minutes late, I overrun it in the end. I said to them, how did you know I was here? Because the school was quite a big school, and you've got to travel quite a bit. And one of the children said, we could smell your perfume through the corridor, and we just followed the scent. So essentially, they thought I'd gone missing. They thought maybe I'd gone home. And the reason they found me and was able to just check that the club was still on was because of my smell, which I thought was really funny. I had Choco Musk, so not a strong fragrance, but I just sprayed it at the end of the day, because again I like to sort of once I finished, because I used to change clothes from sort of smart clothes to sport clothes. So I thought, oh well, I'll just top myself up with a fragrance, just because it's in your bag with your clothes you're going to, aren't you? So yes, I was found. People thought I was missing, and they found me through their nose. And that kind of leads into the last story I have. So the last story I have was when there's so much traffic this morning. I should have left a bit earlier because the weather's not very good. But again, as I said, so the head teacher I worked for was a super sports enthusiast. He was desperate for me to do all the sport. Essentially, I got free rein to do it. I got on really well with him. I got free rein to kind of do what I wanted and what I needed to do to help as much as I could. Now, when I started initially, I'd obviously been working in a sports coach role on Holiday Park before. If you haven't seen my fragrance film about that, definitely check that one out. It's one of my favourite ones to film. I went back to my old workplace and just spoke about some of the fragrance memories I had there. But for a couple of years, I've been wearing t-shirt and shorts, and it was kind of like old uniform. It was uniform that people had before, because it was a seasonal based job. So it wasn't new uniform. So when I started working in school, obviously on my contract it said smart casual attire. So I thought, great, I can wear some bros for a change, some nice smart trousers, and some of my nice shirts, which again over the years, because I've been into my sport and doing a sporty job, I've just not been able to wear. And that's just said what my contract said. Anyway, after about a month, essentially what I would do is I'd do maths and English in the morning, have lunch, and then I'd teach the sport in the afternoon, and I'd get changed after I've had my lunch. Head teacher at the school said to me, don't worry about coming in smart clothes anymore, just come in your casual sports gear. So I was like, okay. To be honest, by that stage I was quite glad, because I was getting a bit sick of wearing the smart shoes. They're not as comfy as trainers. But of course, as much as the clothing was important to me at the time, it was actually I was just as nice just to wear some different fragrances again, wearing a different attire. Smart attire meant I could wear some of those nicer fragrances, some of those sweeter ones. And yeah, so I've started to go back into just my permanent sports gear. Oh, it's so flooded. Just get past this bit and I'll tell you the rest of the story. Right, that's better. So yeah. Anyway, I got changed in the toilet, because there's no changing rooms in the school. I got changed among the staff to save the toilet. Anyway, didn't think much of it. I lost my hat, woolly hat. It was a Frank Lampard hat, and the traffic today is horrendous. So yeah, I lost my Frank Lampard hat in the school. Didn't realise for a couple of weeks until it got colder again. I went to check the lost property, and it wasn't in there. But what was next to the lost property, and it was like a little staff one, it wasn't a school like student one, it was a staff lost property, was this red coat, which was one of the teachers' ones, who I think they didn't really want it anymore, it was just for anyone to wear. But it was also my fragrance, and it had a little post-it note on it that said, Harry, think you might have left this in the toilet. And I recognised the handwriting, because obviously I worked with some of the teachers who, you pick up writing styles quite quickly. And she said, yeah, I put a note on it for your name, because I knew it was you, because it was left in the staff toilet. And I just know how nice you smell. And of course I was one of the only males in the school, so it was a male's fragrance. It was a Next one, actually, Next Code Red. And she said, yeah, it's nice, that one, you don't want to lose that. Always recognise you smelling at that. And that was it. So I went to a lost property to find my hat, and ended up finding my fragrance, which someone knew was mine. So they're the three stories. So essentially, a gift set from a child, because they told their parent they smelled nice, they went to buy me a specific fragrance rather than chocolate, based on the child's recommendation to me, which I thought was really nice, really thoughtful. Second one was being found by people's noses. Again, I was meant to be running an after school club, but people couldn't find me for the club because I was meeting the teacher for that sports day. And then the third one, as I just said, finding my fragrance in lost property when looking for my missing hat, when I used to get changed from smart to casual sports clothes halfway through. So, which one is true? Well, I'm hoping I was quite believable of all of them, and in some ways, they could all happen, couldn't they? Now, I'm going to tell you the first one that is obviously the first one I did. That is false. That is false, 100% false. I was bought gifts from parents and stuff. I've been bought hair products and all sorts of things, but I've never bought a fragrance. I bought like body sets, but it was never because I smelt nice. Children used to buy me like body washes because I was sporty, but it was never because I smelt particularly nice. So in some ways it's true, but nobody bought me that specifically. I think sometimes what people used to do with my Christmas thing, because they knew I was a sports teacher, some of the parents didn't like to buy me chocolate because they thought, you know, he's the healthy one, he's meant to be healthy, alcohol and all that. Maybe not. And also, where I wasn't their class teacher, sometimes they wouldn't want to spend so much on a, you know, expensive box of chocolates. I was sport rotten though, too much at times. I really was. But yeah, that one's not true. And then which one is true out the other ones? Well, the second one that is false was the last story. So the last story I just spoke about, where my fragrance was in a lost property and I didn't realise, is false. And probably the main reason it is false is, one, you don't normally have staff lost property. They just give it to you, wouldn't they? And sometimes you put it in we had a room called a PPA room, which is where teachers do their planning. But yeah, that wasn't true. And to be honest with you, I would have recognised if my fragrance was missing, because I used to just top up that spray all the time. It was true that I used to get changed in the toilet to get into my sports gear, because I said I never wanted to say to the head teacher, can I just wear my sports stuff? And then the one that is true was the one where I went missing and people found me by my smell. Again, this kind of happens not necessarily going missing at times, but people used to know where I've been in school just because of my fragrance. Just so like, we know you've been here because I can smell whatever you're wearing. And that was teachers and, you know, students that would say that. So I was quite easy to find sometimes around schools, because again, schools are really hot normally. Normally the heating's on. It can be very stuffy with a lot of people breathing, and you know what it's like. So yeah, that was true. So the middle one was true, that I was found once. People couldn't find me, and they found me through their noses. So yeah, I waffled on a little bit there, mainly to keep this drive going because it's so dull sitting in traffic. I haven't missed doing this for the last couple of weeks, I can tell you that's for sure. But I hope you've enjoyed this one today. Again, let me know if you'd like me to do something like this again, because obviously different jobs, different places you go, gyms. Obviously you see me doing my runs, gyms, trips to London. Obviously I've had some experience with compliments and fragrance things from them as well. So if you'd like me to do sort of a, you know, one truth and two lies again, or spot the lie, two truths and a lie, I can do that for those situations as well. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one today. I think it's going to be another little 20 minutes or so until I get to work. So yeah, I'll sign off now. Won't bore you any longer. If you got this far, thank you very much, because I know this has been a long time just listening to me talk. So if you listen to all that, fair play to you. Definitely fair play to you. Thanks for watching. Plenty more videos to come. Catch you later.